We covered Typhoon Haiyan, also known as Yolanda, on November 5th, and then Typhoon Bopa, also known as Pablo, on December 3rd, right here on this podcast. Hi, I'm Chris May, host of This Day in Weather History from the Weather Network in Canada. Both of those typhoons happened in the Philippines and both had historical significance. So now, let me introduce you today to Typhoon Wutip, also known in the Philippines as Betty, from This Day in Weather History. Typhoon Wutip, as I mentioned, known in the Philippines as Tropical Depression Betty, was the most powerful February typhoon on record, surpassing Typhoon Higos of 2015. The naming convention we have discussed already, so I invite you to go back at your leisure to either the December 3rd or November 5th episodes to review why there are two names. So now, let's get started. What happened? February 16th. An area of low pressure begins to develop. It would go on to be the third tropical cyclone, second tropical storm, and first typhoon of the 2019 Pacific typhoon season. February 18. After this low pressure system continued to deepen while it moved westward, passing just south of the Federated States of Micronesia, it then organized into a tropical depression on the February 20th. The tropical depression intensified into a tropical storm and was named Wutip. February 21st. Wutip strengthened further into a typhoon and then underwent a rapid intensification. This is really not looking good for anything or anyone in its path right about now. Hey, just a reminder that today's episode is accompanied by a podcast video short. You can watch this 2-minute version of today's story on television on the Weather Network in Canada or online anywhere you are in the world at theweathernetwork.com/weather history. They're shot right here in my podcast recording studio and include photos and video from when Wutip did all this, as well as what it looked like during and after it all happened. So after you listen to the rest of this episode, be sure to check out the podcast video short. February 23rd, this day in weather history. Typhoon Wutip reached its peak intensity with 10-minute sustained winds, sustained now, of 195 kilometers per hour. That's 120 miles an hour. It had 1-minute sustained winds, sustained again, of 270 kilometers per hour, also known as 165 miles per hour, while sweeping southwest of Guam, becoming the strongest February typhoon ever on record along the way. But as they say, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Wutip then shortly thereafter underwent an eye wall replacement cycle, and that caused the storm to weaken as it made a turn northwest. Was it finished? Not even close. February 24th. Wutip finished its eye wall replacement cycle, allowing it to regain strength. Wutip was rapidly intensifying once again. That is how on February 25th, Wutip became the first Category 5 equivalent super typhoon ever recorded for this month. Man, this storm was a record breaker everywhere it went. This time around, it reached a secondary peak intensity with 10-minute sustained winds of, I can't believe we're doing this again, 185 kilometers per hour, that's 115 miles per hour, and that 1-minute sustained wind was right back at 260 kilometers per hour, also known as 160 miles per hour. Mercifully, this rapid growth was followed by a collision with strong wind shear, and that effectively lopped off the head of this dragon, and it descended down a sudden weakening the next day on February 26th. After finally dissipating on March 2nd and the cleanup began, it was estimated that it had caused a total of at least $3.5 million in 2019 USD in damages in Guam and Micronesia, especially on its first ramp-up in lethal strength this day in weather history. Tomorrow is February 24th, and we're looking to a story out of Prince Edward Island, home of such classics as Anne of Green Gables and Road to Avonlea. This tiny island province in Canada knows winter. They can get hit hard from every conceivable wind direction, and that can mean blizzards from February 22nd through the 26th of 1982. Oh, wait a minute, that's 5 days. A blizzard swept through PEI, bringing 60 centimeters of snow, 100 kilometer per hour wind gusts, and wind chills that were in the minus 35 range. Oh my, that sounds miserable. We'll see you back here tomorrow for that brutal blizzard bio, right here on this day in weather history with me, your host, Chris May.